Hello and welcome back to our sweet sunny days. This week we have a little bit of cooking going on around our house and a lot of sewing. Something I have been talking to the people in my life about a lot recently is different seasons of life and how some things make more sense in certain seasons, and then you move on from that season, maybe not even necessarily realizing it, and all of a sudden things that used to make sense no longer make sense. I hope that this isn't confusing. I have spent a lot of time reminiscing on past phases of life and dreaming about the future, and also embracing the season that I am currently in while having all of these conversations. And I have quite a bit more to say about that, which I will later in this video, but I want to talk to you guys about what's going on in my sewing room this week. I am undoubtedly a dreamer, and I can dream up a million projects that I am excited about at once. And that is in every area of my life: home projects, trips I want to go on, you name it. So especially with sewing. So I wanted to start out this week by really refining what is in my project queue. And Seamwork offers this free downloadable, free printable that you can print out project plans, and my goal was to print them out and fill them out, and then whenever I get the sewing bug, rather than dreaming up 1,000 projects at once, I can pull a project plan off of the stack and start working on it. I am hoping that using the project plans helps me, 1, sew things that I will actually be wearing more often, 2, using the patterns that I already have printed, and also 3, using the fabrics that I've already purchased. So it is really just to help me create less waste while sewing, wear garments that I have made, and just overall be a little bit more intentional with my sewing rather than just going kind of rogue with it. Let's dive into the project that I have going this week in the sewing room. So I have been eyeing this particular pattern from Matchy Matchy Sewing for a long time. And so if you have ever looked on their website or on their Etsy store, their patterns are really, really fun and particularly good for color blocking garments, I guess is a good way to say it. So I saw this gather top. The pattern is called the College Gather Top, and I thought it would just be perfect for making from a tablecloth. And throughout my thrifting days, because we all know I love to thrift, I have thrifted several tablecloths that I thought would make really good garment fabric, and I just knew that this particular pattern would be perfect for one of those tablecloths. Before I started this project, I knew that if I wanted this shirt to look good at all, I could not cut it the way that you would if you just cut into some yardage of fabric. I would have to be very, very intentional about the cuts I was making and making sure that it was going to end up being symmetrical. And another thing I wanted to be sure of was that the part of the shirt, the main center panel, was on a mostly solid piece of fabric, because there are some holes in this tablecloth, like in the design, and so I wanted to make sure that that was mostly solid so that it was not a shirt that I had to wear a tank top underneath or something like that. So I knew that this part would be the most important part for this pattern, this tablecloth upcycle, to be a success. And so I really took a lot of time while cutting the pattern to make sure that it would end up working out okay on the final shirt. And honestly, I am really, really proud of how it turned out, because as far as I can tell, for this being my first pattern, like my first project where cutting was so important, I think it turned out really, really well. So I'm really excited for you guys to see the final product. Now, before we show the final product, obviously I have to show the steps to making it, but while I do that, I would like to go back to the topic of seasons of life and how they change. This has been something that I have been talking about a ton with my family and my friends, and just really paying attention to the season that I'm currently in, past seasons, and what the future might look like for our family. I think everybody is familiar with the concept of phases of life and how things change throughout life and all of those sorts of things. Like, I don't think this is a revolutionary thing, but I guess at my age that I am, so I'm in my late 20s, at this age, I just realized that seasons are actually starting to pass us by. Like, no longer does it make sense. If you are an extremely old viewer of this channel, you would find travel vlogs. And I used to travel a ton. And that season is over in every single way. There's worrying about paid time off. It's easier to be at home whenever you have a child. There's money. There's all those things. You're paying for 2 plane tickets now. It's completely changed for a billion reasons. And I think that recently, all of these conversations I'm having have really made me want to embrace the season that I am currently in, which is being a new mom and wife in her late 20s who owns a home and has bills and all those sorts of things. That's the season that I'm in. And I look back very, very fondly from my traveling days. And I always say that chapter has closed, but I am so glad that I did it. And I want to look back at every phase of life and think, I'm glad that I embraced that season while I was in it. So this, of course, begs the question, what does it mean to embrace the season of young motherhood in your late 20s? What does that mean? Now, I am very fortunate because if you don't know, I think a lot of you guys do, I am the youngest of 4 girls. I have 3 older sisters, 2 of which are on YouTube here, and I think a lot of you guys follow them. So I have the extreme benefit of having sisters that have gone before me and gone through seasons and can say, oh yeah, like I look back really fondly at this, or I wish I would have done this differently. And like, that is really, really invaluable. So they have offered me a lot of wisdom for what it means to embrace the current season that I'm in. Now, believe it or not, this all does have something to do with sewing and what I am doing. So I truly believe that right now is a really, really good phase for me to learn all of these skills, to learn how to sew, learn how to make sourdough, learn how to keep a good cleaning schedule and be a mom. This is such a good phase of life for me to really embrace the fact that I have the time and the motivation to learn all of these skills that will one day, hopefully, become second nature to me. And that will be a whole different season where that is necessary. Being a mother is truly the greatest joy of my life, and I truly, truly can say this with all honesty. It is my favorite era or season or phase or whatever you want to call it. It's my favorite so far, and I am having so much fun. So I hope that is encouraging to you if you are in a similar situation, to embrace the season you're in, even if it can be hard sometimes. I don't think us moms will ever regret doing that. Now back to the shirt I was sewing. This pattern came together in such a fun way. I literally had fun, minus I don't really love binding necklines with bias tape, even though it's a skill that I want to get better at. I had so much fun sewing this, and I think it turned out so cute. I'm very proud of it, and I definitely want to make more with more fun color blocking patterns. So I really love this. If you're looking for a fun sew, I recommend it. The last thing I have for you guys this week is an easy instant pot dinner. So we buy beef exclusively in bulk from my sister. So we end up with a lot of roast and different cuts of meat that you maybe wouldn't end up with if you just went grocery shopping. So one of our favorite easy meals is to just make a roast. So normally I will pull up a recipe just to maybe try something new or make sure I'm not forgetting anything. And obviously there is the typical roast where you make it with potatoes and carrots and celery, but we decided we wanted to do something a little bit different this time. So we added onions and some salt, pepper, spices. And then also this recipe called for adding a full bottle of beer, which I thought was really, really interesting, and it really tasted good. And then it also called for apple cider vinegar and oyster sauce. I don't know how to say that, so I could be saying it totally wrong, but it turned out so yummy and was really, really easy to make. For a side, I just tossed in some pre-cut fries into the deep fryer and had a super easy and quick meal. As always, thank you so much for joining me here on our Sweet Sunny Days. I will see you guys next week.